152nd edition of the Open Championship. And no, Rob Bolton has not been around for all of them. It merely feels that way, though. Such is the quality, the depth, the detail of his content on PGATour.com and the golf bet space every week in advance of the Open Championship and the Barracuda Championship, which we'll tag this segment with when we are done chatting about who might seize the claret jug at Royal Troon. Good to see you, big fella. What's happening?
Hey, buddy. You always know how to butter me up. Only 152 of them. Yeah, man, I'm good. It's good to see you back here, back on U.S. Terra Firma. I'm thrilled that we're almost at the end of this fortnight of 4 tournaments of 156 golfers with all sorts of new provisions and disclaimers and qualifications, and it's cool to be sort of jumping into the deep end, and fans are all over it. It's a great time of year. I just wish Major League Baseball had figured this out and moved the All-Star break so I could enjoy that thing. I must have 8 or 9 hours of programming recorded. I don't know who won the game last night. I don't know what the MVP was. I didn't see the end of the Home Run Derby. But hey, that's about me. We're here to talk about the golf this week. But I will say that I haven't had to update my log for the dog barking next door in a couple of weeks. And that was the real anxiety I had entering this fortnight because it's such a strange schedule that I haven't had to wake up at odd hours. And fortunately, that's been the case. So I'm really lucky. And that has me feeling pretty good this morning as well.
That's a win. Go ahead, take it. That's a win. I would think because it's a major championship, much like the Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot of casual bettors, right? And you have a word of caution for those folks. Embrace the variables. Mm-hmm. And there are plenty of variables with the Open Championship, starting, of course, with the weather. But expound on that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a recurring theme, really, every week. Just be careful. Be smart and embrace what you can't control, essentially. And it's part of the narrative throughout the work, but especially this week, because the weather, the fact that so many of the golfers in the field do not play link style golf all year. Talking about mostly PGA Tour members, of course, and all of those in the field this week. They had a bit of a primer last week at the Scottish Open. And that helps and gets them acclimated to the climate and the time zone and certainly how to play the ball on the ground and in the wind. But in terms of the betting, it's like this is not a rookie bettor's week. Just like the Players Championship, I went into that detail in the Golf Bet Insider. It's like that's the wrong week to start. Those are the weeks where you maybe tiptoe into it, be cautious even more so, and hang on. It's also a week for veteran bettors who have been there and done that to maybe take a risk because they understand that these vagaries are going to get the better of them. But also, you're probably going to benefit as well more. More of a spectrum of outcomes that are unpredictable both ways. So rookie bettors who have an awesome week this week probably won't even understand why, and that can be dangerous moving forward. Thinking, I got this thing figured out, And then veteran bettors also understand that if you have a bad week, it's the Open Championship. I knew that going in. We'll get after it next week at the 3M Open or wherever you're going to go next. So speaking to the masses, and as well as from a fantasy perspective, you have to be smart about it. It's a great week to go off the board, one and dones. You're not going to pick a notable in this tournament unless you have nothing to lose and you throw a haymaker. You got to do something to make some noise, and you may get lucky. But coming out of it, there's very little to assign in terms of good luck, bad luck, lessons, other than it's an experience, and then your personal experience in terms of how you did will not have as much of an experience as far as, okay, I understand how it works now. I will take that into consideration for next time. It's not the sexiest approach in terms of having a good time, but it's really sensible if you want to keep your pocketbook still, there's still something in it.
You mentioned the Scottish Open. Bob McIntyre took it down, 3-3-3, scintillating finish to win his National Open. Second National Open he's won this season, of course, after winning in Canada as well. What's McIntyre going to have left in the tank? We'll see. He had to pour everything into last week's effort. But at number 10 in the power rankings, you're getting McIntyre plus 2,800 as he tries to become the first player in 11 years to win the Scottish and then the British Open.
How about that? 2,800. That's pretty nice. And yet, the field in terms of the outrights is spread out pretty good. So there's going to be a lot of flat for a lot of the guys early on. And because of some of that nuance, or I mean the variables, the vagaries in terms of the outcome this week, maybe dip into that longer market. You might find some value. I mean, look, a lot of these champions over the years are going to be of a certain age and whatnot, and so that's one thing to keep in mind. But in terms of McIntyre specifically, I mean, how much is he going to have left in the tank? I mean, you were there. I don't know if you were celebrating with him, but you know that he's going to need a couple of days to recover from whatever celebration that's going to be. Hey, it's going to be young, and it's going to be at home, and certainly he'll have plenty of adrenaline flowing for this tournament as well. So I was respectful in terms of slotting him in the power rankings. Not sure. I had him back. I had him slotted for PGA Tour Fantasy Golf last week, and he delivered the victory. Not necessarily needing to go into his in his direction for this week for the Open Championship in that fantasy game. But in terms of a betting market, maybe default to a top 20, and if he gets you plus value, that's really smart. If you're on board last week, you're on board last week. Diversify a little bit more this week.
3 guys played their way into the Open Championship by virtue of their finish last week at the Renaissance Club. One was Richard Mansell, who shot 61 on Sunday. One was Alex Noren, who's had a fine season. And the other was Aaron Rai, who just keeps cooking. 2nd, 7th, 4th in his last 3. I thought that might shrink the odds for Rai, who you've got at 11th in the power rankings, Rob. But in fact, he's at plus 6,600 this week.
Number 1 on the PGA Tour. Now, that doesn't really matter this week because this is in his home continent of Europe. The Englishman is a winner on the DP World Tour, so he has plenty of experience, more familiar, let's say, in this part of the world. But yeah, I mean, he does so many things so well. Tee to green, one of the best, if not the best, ball striker in the world right now, and has been for a while. And the results are finally showing because the putts are dropping. This is definitely a different week. I mean, everything that we talk about is with that grain of salt. It's the Open Championship. Beware. But when a guy comes in with that kind of head of steam and he fits the course so well, because keeping the ball in play around Royal Troon with the wind that's promising to punish, you're going to want a guy who's in control of his irons upon arrival, and he is that guy. So he's number 11 in the power rankings. This is a major. It's probably the first time he's been in the power rankings for a major. I would have to imagine that. So the fact that he's in it also is a tip of the visor to the guy. So again, another guy who you're going to look into maybe the deeper markets, not to win, a first-time winner. And again, there is that disclaimer because golf is global and so many of the PGA Tour members started on the DP World Tour and all of that. A first-time PGA Tour winner hasn't occurred in the Open Championship since Ben Curtis in 2003. Not at Royal Troon, of course. So beware of all guys, all non-winners of PGA Tour events. That just a little bit like the Charles Schwab Challenge. Davis Riley won there this year. His first individual win, second win on the PGA Tour. So there's that wrinkle as well. But again, Sergio Garcia, first-time winner in that event. These 2 events are 1-2 in terms of avoiding non-winners in terms of PGA Tour. So a lot of qualifiers there, but Rai is among them, even though he's probably the best of them right now.
Bettors may find it difficult to build a case for Jon Rahm because he's not been a factor in the majors this year. However, he's been on the podium, as you pointed out, 2 of the last 3 Open Championships, coming off a foot injury that sent him out of the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. But as a result, you're going to catch Jon Rahm at 25-1 this week. That is unheard of value for the former number 1 ranked player in the world.
Which is exactly why you shove guys and gals out of the window to get to that. So obviously, digital age, you don't have to do that. But that's the visual I have. Like I could sense a GIF in my head of pushing people out of the way. I want Jon Rahm at 25-1. Of course, we can't do that given our profession. But that is the visual, and that's incredible. Look, I also mentioned the Golfbet Insider. The contrarianism is throwing a bone this week. That's what you get. We don't have to lament or worry. We deal with what we can control. And the fact that we can control Jon Rahm to win a major at 25-1, he's going to pop again in a major at some point. The betting house at BetMGM especially is giving you that opportunity to latch on board. So look, the fact that he missed the U.S. Open, he's going to be chomping at the bit to get back out there and prove that He doesn't want to waste the entire major season. It's been an unusual year for Jon Rahm. He's adjusting to life outside the PGA Tour, and that's something for a thoughtful guy who has tons and legions of fans, but he hasn't really proven it in the majors yet, as you mentioned, and as he's documented. So he's healthy again. He's been playing well since, essentially. So there's really no reason not to get back on board. It's just a matter of making sure that you paid attention to that. And 25-1, man, it's a good thing that you saw that. That's important, and that can be really lucrative for us.
Hard to imagine that a major champion and a gold medal winner would qualify as a sleeper, but the odds confirm exactly that scenario for Justin Rose, who is your outright winner in your sleeper content this week. And at age 43, he very much fits the profile of the type of player who has thrived and won at Royal Troon. And you had the opportunity to grab Justin Rose at 150-1. That is very much worth a fraction of a unit in my estimation.
So you see Keegan Bradley on the wall behind me there. I saw the PGA of America has been watching the show, and maybe a little subliminal advertising for Keegan to be the next Ryder Cup captain. Appreciate that. Man crush on Keegan aside, Justin Rose's resume as a professional golfer is my favorite. He's done everything. He has accomplished everything. He's won everything at least once. And some of these things, it's hard to win once, especially the gold medal, which he was he was the winner in Rio in 16. And he's so present, and the fact that he's in a slump is why he's 150-1 to win it. Look, we talk about being surprised at Jon Rahm being 25-1. It's relative to him, of course, prime of his career and still growing. Rose not in the prime, not quite necessarily in the sunset yet. He's getting closer. But when he won at Pebble last year, he said that he was really captivated by the fact that he was able to rise up, and when his best is in sync, he can still beat PGA Tour talent, and that's what he did. So this week, the fact that 40-somethings have won a lot of these Open Championships. I don't have the data on the average age, let's say, of the last 25 years of every winner, but I would have to think that the Open Championship would sit number one in terms of oldest average age. It has to. Yeah. So Rose is in that is closer to that pocket for our considerations than he would be most other weeks. Pebble is another tournament where the older guard tends to win. But just in terms of it's not even analytical this week. It's just the guy, he medaled at final qualifying, co-medaled technically at final qualifying. He went through that route to get into this tournament, and he's done everything. There's nothing he hasn't achieved. So this would be a second major, of course, and the value is crazy. I really thought it was one of those where I was scrolling. I got to about 125-1. I'm like, I must have missed it. I'll go back. Oh, right. 150, man. So automatic outright. Now, of course, the code of all of that is Scotty Scheffler's playing, and an outright sleeper hasn't won yet. So. But that's why it's fun to dabble into the deeper market. And he's a perfect representation of why you need to look further down the board this week.
Scotty, 5-1, right in that neighborhood where he has lived all year. Incredible. He's having a Tiger-esque season, Scotty Scheffler. Tiger, of course, is in the field, and I never in my lifetime would have imagined plus value for Tiger Woods to simply make the cut in a major championship, but that is the reality of the situation here this week. And you'd be foolish to ignore plus 220 for the big cat to make the cut here this week.
Plus 220 to make the cut. So look, that's been, he's been plus value for a while now just to make the cut. But this again, Open Championship, golfer of a certain age, Tiger Woods he's one of one. Typically when Tiger speaks, I tune him out. He really doesn't reveal anything. He's so smart about that. We'd love him to say more. And granted, he has come around in terms of sharing, a little bit more of what's behind the curtain in terms of the job and his relationships with others, but not necessarily much about. He's still, when are you going to play next? When I commit to the next tournament, he doesn't really say much. And it's fun to try to see what he gets out of that. It's a little tiring at the same time. We don't expect much. But this week he talked about being able to do a little bit more. I don't know what that means, but he did reveal that since the U.S. Open, he's been able to do a little bit more. Being able to ramp up the workout, being able to push himself a little bit. And just the fact that he was willing to reveal that much for a guy who never reveals anything or rarely reveals anything was telling for me. He's comfortable, and we know how much he loves to push himself. The grind, the challenge. He thrives on this. Top 70 and ties. It's not top 65 like it is for standard PGA Tour events. Dip down to 70. So at least another 5 are going to make it. Who knows what that means? Maybe it's one stroke in terms of 65 to 70. Maybe that's all he needs. That's all we care about. But when you're getting plus 220 for him to do that, and it's Tiger Woods, every time he plays, I think about what would be the bet for Tiger Woods, especially for rookie bettors. That's the one this week. Get on board with that.
Meanwhile, back in the States, we've got the Barracuda Championship, Stableford scoring, which is really fun.
Wow.
Give us a note on someone that gamers and bettors should not be ignoring this week, the Barracuda.
It's a fun time for a lot of these guys. There's so many guys who have Northern California ties, and they're in the field this week. Pearson Coody was the original number 1, full disclosure, in the power rankings. Then he withdrew from the tournament, lost in that playoff at Keene Trace on Sunday, so he's taking a breather, and he's now comfortably inside the top 125. So Patrick Rodgers, who Northern California guy, like non-winner on the PGA Tour, but he skipped the Scottish, wasn't going to get into the Open, so he had last week off, and then he commits to the Barracuda, where he's, let's see, he has a T10, a T13, and a runner-up finish in 3 appearances. That's not too shabby. If he's going to grab his first PGA Tour victory anywhere, you'd think it could be here and many other places, but especially here. The stars are aligned in that sense. But again, it's really difficult to underscore any of the outrights in a sense that I feel confident. I mean, right now, Keith Mitchell is top of the board at plus 1,600. He's not in any of my preview material. Not feeling really good about Keith Mitchell. Michael Thorbjornsen was a little bit shorter than 25 to 1. He's 25 to 1 now. He's not in any of my work either. So this is what you're getting at. I mean, Luke Clanton was the favorite last week at the ISCO, and he wasn't among the 5 non-winners who were in the playoffs. So it's a crapshoot that term. So maybe just, again, dabble lower into the market, spread the units, diversify, be smart about it, try to come out the other side with the black number next to your name instead of a red one, and have some fun with it. But Patrick Rodgers, just to a man in terms of everything, he's going to break through at some point. I keep saying that. I believe in that. He's got to. And this would be the week where it makes sense. So even though he defaulted into the number 1, I'm going to sign off on that.
What a stretch. We're coming to the end of a quartet of tournaments over 2 weeks, a fortnight of 4. If you like, great work from you, big fella, on PGATour.com over the last couple of weeks. I encourage people to go to the website in the golf bet space, read Rob's terrific stuff, and find him on X at Rob Bolton Golf. We will do it again next Wednesday, back in the land of 10,000 lakes for the 3M Open in Minnesota. I will catch you then.
All right, buddy. Talk to you then. Good to see you back in town. See you.
Thanks.